I guess most of you have already joined us, so we'll be starting with the webinar now. A very good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mahima Lal, and I'm part of engagement marketing team at Vired, and I'm your host for today. So before we step into the webinar and the topic, I would like to give you a quick introduction to this platform, which is Wired. So everyone, Wired is a premium LearnTech company, which is the part of the larger Hero Group, where we are on a mission to not only reimagine the way people learn, but also build a better and a brighter future for themselves. We also equip our learners with the right skill set, the right knowledge, and the expertise that they need in order to find success. So everyone, as you all can see on your screen, today we are presenting a webinar on the topic crafting winning go-to-market strategies for product management. And in order to present this topic, we have Abhinav Narang with us. A very warm welcome, Abhinav. So a quick introduction to Abhinav. Abhinav is a computer science engineer from MIT Manipal and a postgraduate in management from the School of Inspired Leadership. He has an overall experience of 14 plus years in software engineering and product management with companies like Fidelity Investments, Infosys, Snapdeal, Oxford Caps, etc. He is a product management expert, consultant, and helps startups build their product strategy and roadmap across multiple domains like e-commerce, fintech, FMCG, etc. Welcome, Abhinav.
Thanks, Mama. Thank you so much.
We will also be having Sonali Narula with us. She is the subject matter expert for the management programs that are offered by HeroWire, and she will be helping you all to understand the program in a detailed manner, and whatever questions and queries you have after learning about the program details, she will be helping you out with your queries. Everyone, as you know that we are in a webinar setup and you won't be able to switch on your mics and your cameras. So we have a chat box and a Q&A section open for you all. In case you have any questions or any queries during the webinar related to the topic or the program that we are going to talk about today, you can put down your question and queries in the Q&A section or in the chat box. And Abhinav and Sonali will be more than happy to answer your queries. Thanks, everyone. We'll be starting with the webinar now. Over to you, Abhinav.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, Abhinav, I can see your screen. Can you please put it in the presentation mode? Yeah, it's fine now.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my learnings with you. Today, I'll be sharing, about how you can make a go-to-market strategy, from the product management perspective. And I'll share some of my learnings, what I have done, and how I have implemented it in the past. So what I'll walk you through is to give you an idea what exactly is GTM, what are the different models which are there in GTM, how as a product manager, you can be involved, to draft a GTM for your product. And then I'll show you how I did it for one of my products, which went quite well, and what was the overall plan about it. So let's start. When it comes to GTM, right, what exactly is GTM? So in simple terminology, if you look at it, it is nothing but, an overall plan a company creates when they are planning to launch a new product or service in the market, right? So that's how we define it in a very, very simple manner. What are the different models, that we have for GTM, generally, which are adopted by big companies or even the startups in today's world? So the first one, is the direct sales model, right? Where when a software company plans to sell their product directly to the end users, they build their own sales team, they build their own product marketing teams, and then they pitch it directly to the clients. Generally, this kind of strategy is adopted by big product companies like Salesforce, Adobe, and they go ahead and pitch their products to them. so that it can be taken by a large organization with a multiple set of licenses. Then comes the freemium model. Now, this is a very popular model, in the industry, and most of the SaaS is basically software as a service companies. Those who don't know about it, they are the ones who use it quite a lot to sell their product. They create multiple versions of their products and provide different sets. So, for example, a company like Slack, they come back and say that, okay, you can use the basic version for free, but if you need more features, you have to pay for it, right? And that's how they upsell the other features and generate revenue out of it. There could be other ways as well, where they say that, okay, you can access a full version, for a certain period of time, and then you can, either pay for it or you would be, degraded to a basic version. So there are multiple ways in which the freemium strategy is currently being utilized by the companies, and it's a very popular model because it actually gives, a way for the companies to reach out to the users, and users get the benefit of experiencing the products without any charges. So they can use the features, they can see the relevance, they can see if it's really working for them or not, and then if it works out well, they really go ahead and pay for it. Then comes the self-service model. The user purchases the product themselves. They identify the site or the place where they can actually go and pay for it directly. And the company uses different channels like social medias, in terms of online, in terms of offline. They use different hoardings. They use uh, another, like, road shows to attract people to use it. But then this is more like a low cost products, just like Shopify, right? So if you are planning to build your own e-commerce stores, right, you can just go to Shopify site and uh, pay for the service, and then it's good to go. So I think there is a question: which model Hero Wired is using? Well, I would let my ma answer that. uh, But I think what happens is the go-to-market strategy is not just one type. I tell you that it's a multi-type strategy where you can have a hybrid model. So, for example, people can come and experience about the courses. People can really enroll directly, or they can be channel partnerships where for example, a lot of software companies often form partnerships with other companies to expand their market reach, right? So that's another way of reaching out through different channels. For example, I'm not sure a lot of people uh, would be using, right? Microsoft products are very common, and for the personal use, you might not have realized, because it becomes so popular from the enterprise perspective. But there's a lot of sales for Microsoft gets generated by these channel partners. They actually end up owning the service for Microsoft, and they reach out to the enterprises and then they sell the product. So Microsoft need not have their own direct sales team only to sell the product, but they also have the channel partners to do that for them. Okay, there's another question. Okay, what could be a GTM for a product that helps a company evaluate their social engagement? Okay, I'll come to this question. Let me just go through the models first. Then I'll tell you the exact uh, you know strategy that you can use for this. Okay, from the channel partners perspective, like I said, then comes the land and expand. Well, this strategy involves initially selling a small solution to meet an immediate need. For example, people who are software engineers, they must have used Atlassian tools like Jira, right? So how they do it, they sell one of the solutions first, and once that solution, is being adopted by the users, then they start selling the other solutions, which would be something which might be related to the first product, but would be a collaboration tool, or tool like which can be clubbed together and come as a suite for them. So for example, like I said, Atlassian has been using Jira and Confluence as tools. So Jira comes as a project management tool, where developers and product managers, they create their tasks and stories, which are then executed by the engineering teams and can be tracked over a period of time. While Confluence becomes another tool, which helps in managing the documentation and creating, the repository for all the PRDs and for the status reports and retrospectives and whatnot. Right? Then comes the marketplaces. This has been a very recent, uh, you know phenomena which has come up and become quite popular, where companies, they sell or they list their products or services on marketplaces. There are specific marketplaces for software products. For example, Zoom, which we are using right now, is a good example of using marketplace strategy. They started selling, their services on the Salesforce platform. So yeah, these are the six, very common and most popular GTM models that we see during our, in the overall journey of the products when companies are planning their strategy. Most of the companies, when they go to the market, they plan a hybrid model where they just don't go for the one of them, but they come up with a plan of combining, multiple of them together. So let me just go to the Q&A side. Okay. So what could be a GTM for a product that helps a company evaluate their social engagement or various metrics over different social based on their algorithm? How can they validate the model? Well, I think the model for the GTM, in this case could be, for example, freemium one, right? Let's say freemium model, if they adopt it, right? It can see that how are people responding to their social engagement. So for example, if someone is giving their product for free, right, what is the exact turnaround time? Are they getting acquired? How much time it's taking for them to activate their profiles? Once they have activated their profiles, then what is the time that they're spending? So for example, if the product is more to do with content, right? So people are coming and reading the content. So how many times they are coming up? Is there a particular kind of content where they are really interested in, or they are coming to similar kind of content over a larger period of time? How much time they're spending? So these are some of the engagement metrics that can be tracked over a period of time. But then the ideal way would be hybrid here as well, right? So you can have a self-service model where the word of mouth let people discover your product, and that drives the engagement over a longer period of time, and that becomes more of an organic and sustainable method to drive the engagement and you know generate the revenue for the company. So like I said, if you have these metrics, you define a particular sets of criteria where you have a hypothesis which you want to validate. For example, you say that, okay, I want to have, my content is something that people would like to read again and again. For example, let's say you have a content for news, right? So if people are coming and reading news on a daily basis, so that gives you a trigger that, okay, my hypothesis is correct, that people are coming. If you are generating a larger content where it requires people to spend a lot of time, so you come up with a metric that, hey, I would want that it would be ideal if people are coming and they're using the product for, let's say, 20 minutes in a day or 1 hour in a day. And that's where it will become more of a validation for you that your product is really working on. Yeah. Okay. So what could be the sales metrics for the same product? Like initially freemium model, then move to data or information sharing platform similar to one. Well, sales metrics for the same product would be, again, it could be two-way, right? One of the way would be if people are enrolling for their product for a longer period of time, right? So if you have given them a free service for some time, if they are, going for the paid feature, that gives you, one of the context, right? That could be one metric. The secondary metric could be like, if they don't drop off. So for example, if your subscription is on a monthly basis, you really, go for it for a month but drop and then they don't continue, right? So that's again would be the validation that if your pricing strategy is working or not. You are able to acquire the customer, but then stick to your product. Okay, so let's forward and maybe we can have questions answered in this session.
Abhinav, your voice is
Let's start it
cracking.
first. Okay, so can you hear me well now?
Yes, now it's better.
Okay, so I was saying that let's go ahead and move forward to be conscious of time, and maybe I'll take more questions after the next session, right? Okay, so what is the role of a product manager in terms of drafting a GTM, right? So a product manager as a function, right? It is a support function in multiple ways, right? So from a perspective of understanding the business requirement, from a perspective of sharing the requirements with engineering, and from a perspective of launching the product, but not really the direct owner of generating the sales, right? Product managers work very closely with product marketing teams and sales teams, and that's where some of the areas where the product manager helps in crafting the strategy for their product, that how it should be marketed to the end user. So one of the key things happens is the expertise, right? The product manager is the expert of the product, right? She or he knows what are the core needs of the users, what are the features and the benefits of the features that would be really, really helpful for the end user to use the product. They can leverage the knowledge in terms of positioning, how the product needs to be positioned in the market, and help the company in terms of building the overall GTM plan, right? That what would be the target audience, how it would be, perceived by them. Then the second point comes is again as a market know-how, right? As a product manager, you are responsible for understanding what the competition is doing, to have a complete understanding of competitive advantage in your product, right? What would be the target audience that would be using it? So this can also, help them, the company in terms of creating a focused marketing plan and acquisition plan, right? And third one would be the value prop, right? So what is the exact value prop that your product has? To articulate in the best possible way, defining the clear USPs of the product, and the same can be replicated in terms of creating the marketing collaterals and drafting the strategies to reach out to the end consumer. Yeah. Then comes being a guide, right? So if you see a lot of products which are taken at an enterprise level, the B2B products, right? There's a lot of involvement of the product managers, right? So whenever a company shares their inputs, right, that they are interested in using the product, and they request for an end-to-end demo, so the product managers comes on board, because they are the ones who understand the product end-to-end, and they actually tells the user how the product can be used in the best possible way, by providing the demo and sharing the insights about the overall engagement. They also share the roadmap for the product, in terms of how the product is going to evolve in future, so that if a customer has certain plans in terms of their business, right, they also answer that. Then from the pricing strategy point, it is widely said that the product manager is considered as the first user of the product, and they are the ones who can say that, okay, what would be the ideal plan. So the pricing has multiple parameters which are defined in terms of the plans, like the models that are being used. At the same time, you look at the factors like competition. You look at the areas which can be really, really useful in terms of the pricing part, right? And they can help in defining the ideal pricing for the product. Then the last but not the least is the KPIs. What would be the performance indicators? The key performance indicators that will define the success of the product. So they can really help in identifying them, because the metrics would be two-way, right? One would be, like I said, from the pricing point of view, that how many users are enrolling, how many people are paying for it, right? Then but the engagement part, in terms of the overall journey, how they are interacting, so that is something that will be owned by the product manager, which will help them define the future of the product plans in terms of pricing, in terms of reach, in terms of feature, and also from the usability perspective. So these are the six areas, which are very, very important and taken care by the product managers, when they craft a GTM strategy with the overall team. Let me take some of the questions now. Okay. So I think these are the ones which I have already answered. Any other questions? Okay, great. Then I'll move ahead to the next session, which is about how to go about GTM for your product, right? This is a simple framework, which I use in the same manner. And how I do it is first to get the product understanding, right? Once you have a clear understanding of your product features, your USPs, you basically look out the TG for you. What is the target audience and how you create a profiling for them. So, for example, let's say Microsoft comes back with a new design tool, right? So their TG would be the designers, right? So how the designers are going to access it, are there would be more demand from the enterprise side, there would be more demand from an individual user side. So what would be the areas, right? And what kind of designers would be interested in using the product? Would it be good for the designers who are starting the design journey? Would it be good for the designers who are pro and they want some tool to help them, manage their designs, or to evolve their designs further, help them create their design guidelines, their design roadmaps. So defining the clear target audience would be another step that would be taken as part of the GTM strategy. Then the third thing would be the competition, right? Looking at the competition, where do we stand as a product? I use SWOT, as a framework where how to identify what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what are the opportunities in the market, and what are the threats, right? So there could be multiple ways. I also use Porter's five forces as one of the key strategies to identify, where the product stands. And it can help you define a 360-degree competitive analysis. But the idea is should have a clear understanding of competition and what exactly they are doing, better or worse, or whatever it is. But an end-to-end understanding is very, very needed, right? Then comes the pricing strategy. Once you identify the areas where you stand out, and the areas where there's an improvement needed, you come up with a pricing plan that this would be the ideal price. uh, well, this pricing is also, it evolves over a period of time. So there are certain products where you see the basic pricing comes in initially, but then you evolve it. So for example, Uber is a very, very interesting use case, right? When they came to India, they wanted people to use a technology platform to book the cabs, right? And that's how they started with very, very cheap fares, which were very competitive in the local market. So which could not have been offered by the local taxis, right? But now, if you see, they have become like, they have evolved over a period of time, and the pricing has become really, really, competitive. So you decide how you want to perceive in the market, where you have, the competition, what kind of competition and how you want to do it. If you are using an innovative product like ChatGPT, where, there's hardly any competition to start with, they can ask for a $20 per month of, subscription, and people can actually use it. Uh, they also came up with the freemium model where you can use it for free some features, but if you want to use an upgraded version, or you want to use it for an enterprise, you have to pay for it, right? So that's how you come up with the pricing strategy, right? And then you look at the distribution. So how you're going to distribute it, right? What would be the ideal way? And like I said, when it comes to enterprises, like you come up with a very big product like Salesforce or Microsoft Office, you build their own teams, or you come up with the channel partners. But you come up with a end user product where it would be more used initially by end users and then adopted by a larger group of people. Then you plan your strategy accordingly and you come up with it, right? So you need to find out which distribution model would be ideal for you, and then you move ahead and execute it. And last but not the least is the collaboration, right? So end of the day, you would not be directly selling the product, right, as a product manager, but the sales and marketing team would be. So how you can collaborate with them and create an best to best GTM plan would be the right way to go ahead. It's widely said that you can have a very good product, but then if it's not being sold properly, right, no matter how good it is going to be like not of a use, right? And that's where the collaboration part really matters, where you share the details about what are the things which are good from the product side. Try to work along with the sales and marketing team, collaborate and see the outcomes and be reflective of the user behavior, right? Go out and talk to the users, understand their needs, what is working, what is not, and based on that you try to transform your strategy, right? So that's how I use my way of looking at the GTM per se for every product that I launch in the market. And I'll share a case with you after this. But before that, if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer. What could be okay the better way, better GTM for Headspace app, right? Well, it would be very interesting to see how the Headspace has evolved over a period of time. But what I see is it all depends on on the two factors, right? One of them is what has worked. So the data really speaks for itself. So let's say uh, Headspace has X number of users, right? So how are these X number of users interacting with the product? If they are, if the idea is to first build the traction over a period of time, then you look at it from that perspective that, hey, in next 6 months, what we are going to do is we are going to give all the services for free or for a certain amount and see how much people use it. And if we see that there's enough traction that's coming up, then we start charging people. And and also in terms of charging, how much would be the ideal charging cost, right? How much would be the ideal pricing? So there's nothing like you can say the foolproof strategy. I think if I would have been at Headspace, I would have told you better. But the way to look at it is the six models, like I said, one of them can be changed if you have to switch, or you have to switch really fast if your GTM is not working. If you are stick to one thing, like you just want to sell using a one particular model, then it becomes really difficult to adopt. And if it's not working out, figure out a plan. So when you're defining your GTM, right, you should always have three plans for you. What would be the best case, what would be a moderate case where you see that, okay, this is working, or I need some more time for it to validate, and the worst case scenario. So if the threshold that you have defined for a moderate use case, if it is not being achieved in the duration that you have planned, then you really need to change the model immediately and come up with a new model which can really help you out in terms of executing it. So there are cases where the product has evolved to a level where even after evolving, changing multiple strategies, people are not ready to pay, right? And that's when you need to take a call if you want to run the product or not, right? The next question is on the ONDC, right? ONDC has multiple types of service profiles like food, service, logistics. They can have multiple GTM plans for each category. Absolutely. Why not? So it's not just a one-to-one case, it's a case of one-to-many and many-to-many as well, where one particular type of product can have a multiple GTM strategies. And similarly, I'll give you an example of Zomato. I'm sure you know about Zomato, right? So Zomato has multiple models, right? They have a model like Gold, where you pay for the services which you can utilize to get discounts while ordering food. It also give you options when you are going for dining. You can use that for discounting purpose, or you can reduce your fees for the delivery. At the same time, they have a model for Hyperpure, right, which is a B2B model where they supply it to enterprises, right? So in that case, the GTM is completely different, even though the end product of food is there, right? But the kind of GTM that they have for one product is very, very different than they have for the other one. Similarly, for Blinkit, right? They have a different strategy for Blinkit. So that ways, one product can have multiple GTM models at the same time. It has a vice versa kind of thing where you have multiple models for multiple products together. So that could be another way to look at it. Yeah. Okay. Virendra, what are the best distribution strategies according to your experience for a SaaS product in educational stream? Well, when it comes to education, right? Education, you need to look at it where your end user is, right? So, for example, if your product is going to be used by students, right? So, I was with one of the edX where we were giving the accommodations, for students. We are creating a platform where students can find accommodations, and they can go ahead and find it. The idea was to take it to a level where it becomes an educational platform as well, where people can form communities and interact. But to look at it, right, there were multiple ways. One was to approach the colleges, where students are going to take admissions, right? So that was one way. Uh, it was an indirect way, but you look at that as one of the GTM where you go towards the enterprise model and tie up with the colleges, like I said, the channel partners, right? Where you have the colleges marketing your product, so you don't need to reach out to the end users directly. That could be one way. Another way is you look at the parents, right? Because parents are also the decision makers when it comes to education, right? So you reach out to where the parents would be. So try to target those forums. So that would be a direct sales model, but focusing on a particular TG, which is different than having one. So again, with the SaaS product, like you said, a hybrid model works well. It could be using an enterprise kind of thing where, for example, if you are creating a SaaS product for schools, it could be you can create a trigger from the parent side, or you can create a trigger or a pull from the school side as well. So create a hybrid model and work towards it. How can we introduce a different model in the midst of existing strategies to experiment with product expansion? That's a very good point, right? uh, you always have this question that if my model is working or not. So that's why I said, when I'm trying to get a GTM strategy made, right, find three sets of numbers. Is what is acceptable scenario for me to move towards this strategy going forward, right? What would be the best case scenario to see if it's working or not, and also define a threshold limit for the worst case scenario, that if I don't reach this number by this time, then definitely the strategy is not working, and really need to change it, right? And work on a different model or try a different approach towards it. Yeah. Okay. So let me share a case with you first, and then I'll move on to another set of questions. Uh, so this case is basically, I did it for a healthcare company. It's a multinational FMCG company, and they wanted to come up with an application for calculating protein intake of people. Identify the gaps in the daily protein intake, and provide them with a personalized food and product recommendations. So they have certain products which they wanted to recommend based on the protein intake, but they wanted to keep it very, very subtle so that it becomes a daily use product for the users to understand. Uh, Something on the lines of healthify me, but for a different market segment altogether. Yeah. So how did I approach it? Using the previous framework I told you, I use the same one to come up with the plan over here. So the first one was defining the target market. Primarily the target market for this kind of segment was people with high smartphone usage, increasing, who are very, very health conscious and very, very active. So the focus for this particular product was Europe, but we started our pilot on one country. So another important thing is when you are launching it, always define the scope for the pilot, that if you are doing a hypothesis in one market, if your hypothesis becomes true, then you are going to expand it to different markets, right? So like you said that if your strategy is not working, one of the questions was like, where my GTM is not working, how should I change it, right? So define it for a limited set, have a very specific goals toward it, and then move towards improving it over a period of time. Then the second point is the target audience. Define the target audience clearly in terms of who would be your TGs, right? The health conscious individuals, in this case, athletes, fitness enthusiasts, individuals who are following, specific diets like low carb, high protein diet, and how you're going to position it, right? So, an essential tool for maintaining a balanced diet, highlighting the ease of tracking it, for the protein intake, that was the positioning which we had for this. A very simple, intuitive application, which you can use by, entering your day-to-day intake, and it will tell you that, if your protein intake is as per your BMI, and also your goals that you have, and based on that we will suggest you what kind of foods that you can use, or you can recommend some external supplements that you can take while using this application. So then we did the SWOT analysis in terms of where do we stand as a product, right? The strength was, the unique product addressing a specific nutritional need. So there were multiple products in the market at that point of time, who were giving a high level idea, but not specifically focused on a particular type, right? So protein is a very, strong kind of motivator for people who are building their physiques, or, who want to maintain a very healthy lifestyle. So we thought we'll first focus on protein only, and then we will evolve it to multiple minerals and other content, which can be useful for people. So rather than focusing on everything, focus on one unique area where you see that, you have strength. Looking at our the portfolio of products that we have in that FMCG company, we had very good products from the protein perspective, which were ideal for both sets of people who were, looking at their daily protein intakes, as well as, were trying to build their physique. So we thought that let's focus first on the health conscious people, and then we'll go to the ones which can have their, daily intake in a normal diet too. Looking at the weaknesses, what were the weaknesses? Market with supplements was, it was too cluttered initially. There are a lot of people who are selling the health products, well-being products. So how do you have to differentiate it, right? So that's where the weakness comes in, that you have to really stand out in terms of your product, and how you're going to say that this is really going to work for you. The opportunities were, people were becoming really health conscious. So uh, this was the time when we were launching this app, that there was a lot of involvement of health centers coming up. People were going to dietitians, asking for diet. So there was a lot of market was evolving, and people were really becoming conscious globally, specifically in the Western markets. And it was a good opportunity for us to launch this product at that point of time. The threats were, the tech, really, the tech part. There were a lot of competition which was coming from food companies developing similar kind of offerings. So how we can really stand out was one of the things. So like I said, we also used Porter's five forces here, where we used the strategy of creating barriers of entry. What were the powers that we had, and that's how we defined the overall GTM for the product. The next thing came is the pricing. So we again thought that in the cluttered market, it's always good that people can start using your product first. They can have a basic tracking of the protein recommendations for free, while charging for advanced features, like giving them a detailed nutritional advice, integration with other health applications. And for example, we were offering personalized mentorship at that. It was quite new concept in Germany, where you don't have the personalized one-to-one sessions. So all these were add-on features which we started offering them, and then we started looking at the distribution side, how we can distribute it, right? So the best option was looking at the influencers, both from the content perspective and from the service delivery perspective. There are a lot of health influencers over there, like I said, dietitians and social media influencers who are sharing their advices. So we tied up with them to reach out to the consumer, so that we can burn less amount of money and reach to the maximum people without, in the shortest possible time. So that really worked for us in terms of distribution. Then the collaboration, with end-to-end teams, like I said, you are not going to be, as a product person, the ideal person to really, sell your product directly, but there would be different teams, right, from the marketing and the sales side. So we conducted a lot of usability testing in terms of what is working for the product, what is not, and how we can improve the overall conversion and engagement. So in this application, uh, acquisition and activation was just one aspect, because you can acquire the consumer, but how much time they're spending on the application also really matters. So we were able to onboard 10,000 users in a very short span of time. So did acquire it well, but then we need to hold on to these users and increase their engagement. So around an average engagement for this application was close to 22 minutes in a day, which was quite good in a short span of time. And we were able to do really well, and sell this product in the market, became one of the leaders in that market, in this space. And then we went ahead, once we were able to prove our hypothesis right, once we thought that the pilot was really successful, we were able to deliver for the next set of products. Like I said, the threshold figures were always there in our mind, that if it's working or not. So we were looking at 5,000 as the first figure, to see that if we'll be able to get 5,000 people onboarded, that would be the first indicator. And once they're acquired, how much time they're going to spend, right? That's where it started differentiating. So initially we thought that if they are able to spend even 15 minutes a day by entering their intake, that would be a good metric. And if we are able to achieve more than 20 minutes, right, in a day, that would be the best case scenario for us to move ahead. So we were able to achieve 22 minutes, and that really worked well for us. So yeah, I mean, that's how I did the overall GTM strategy for one of the products, and did it for multiple products later on as well. But I used a similar kind of framework whenever I did it, and it really helped me bring out the best in the products, and also to identify the failures as well, that what is not working, and what we need to change, or take it out from the market. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Questions now. Okay. How we can introduce a model.
You have already answered most of the questions, but you can just take a quick look in the chat box as well as into the Q&A section if there's any question that you would like to take.
Sure. What are the parameters one should assess to avoid a particular market? I think this I've already answered during my conversation. What would be your recommendation in designing a GTM model when the end user is both enterprise and a consumer? Well, I think that's where the hybrid model comes in. Microsoft is the best example. You see it's being used by most of the enterprises, and also being used by end consumers. So you have a plan for end users, right? Initially, Microsoft starting targeting end users from the school's perspective, where they started selling their product to schools so that kids can learn it. And then for enterprise, they started targeting with the channel partners. So you use a hybrid strategy, and that really works for you, right? How can we calculate risk to pivot? I told already. Have the threshold defined, and really move really fast, iterate really fast, and change it as and when what is working, what is not. But data is the key for this. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for all the questions. I hope I was able to answer a lot of them. You can share the questions with Mahima, and maybe offline if needed I can help some of them. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Abhinav.
Before you, log out, I would just want to ask a question in the interest of all our learners.
Sure.
So, I mean, a general day of a product manager, right? How does that really looks like?
Well, it's different. It's a very long answer to be very true, right? So it depends on two cases, right? One is when you are an individual contributor, or when you're a people manager, right? So in both the cases, it's slightly different. So let's take an example of an individual contributor, because I think that would be valid for a lot of people here. So as an individual contributor, what you do is, if you are working for, let's say, a consumer company, as a B2C company, what you do is you first go and start your day with the data. Okay. if you're already working. If you have just joined, then what you'll do is you first would like to understand the overall product, understanding of, let's assume that, you have that, you are already working on certain model. But if you are already in the, in the company for over a period of time, then you start looking at the data as the first thing in the morning that, let's say you are a consumer product manager, that how has been, the last day's data in terms of the engagement, in terms of the users, in terms of acquisition. Then you look at, the daily sprints are there. So if a sprint is ongoing, you actually attend the stand-ups where the developer has questions on the product backlog or the things which are in development. So you try to help them out in terms of what is the gaps, right? And besides that, you also work on the product roadmaps, that how you're going to plan your quarter or your month in terms of, the product features that you want to roll out, working along with the designers, working along with the business teams. Then you have your business team meetings where you discuss about how is the business doing in terms of the products which are already in the market. Is there any change in the business strategy, right? So how you are evolving it. So that could be another, sorts of, time that goes during the day. Then one of the key important things is the user interviews, right? I used to make sure that at least one, user feedback I'll listen to, or have an interview with the user on a daily basis to understand what's working, what's not, and see how we can do that, right? Then planning out a lot of experiments. As a consumer product manager, you need to have experimentation in place all the time, right? So just to give an example, for companies like booking.com or company like Expedia, right? On a single day, there would be thousands of experiments running. So as a product person, you have to be on your toes to understand, identify the areas of improvements, and run a lot of experiments to see what is working, what is not. And this changes, on a day-to-day basis. But on high level, you really sync up with all the stakeholders, be it your peers within the product team, the engineers from the development team, designers from the design or the UI UX perspective, and the business teams from, from the perspective of the needs and the requirements, your end users, and then the senior leadership as well, to brief them up what's working, what's not.
And since you also mentioned that, things are different at an individual contributor role and at a managerial role, right? So what are like the major differentiation points, in the KRAs or a KPI of the product manager?
Sure. So I think it is basically a two-way thing, right? When you evolve from being an individual contributor, you don't just become a people manager only and leave the individual contribution part. So how you evolve is in a very organic way. So for example, if you are a product owner, you start with the product owner, right? You manage one single product. So you keep on driving the features and the roadmap for the same, and lead the execution part of it. The moment you become a product manager from a product owner, you start managing multiple product owners, right? And multiple products. So you have that contribution side, again, an individual contribution side where you lead the roadmap for and the execution for multiple products, right? The moment you become a manager, you first, let go of few products and you start driving the strategy for them. So rather than being a technical person on the day-to-day execution part, you actually become a strategic person where you start looking at, the business perspective more than just the technical or the technical perspective of execution. So that's how you evolve over a period of time. And even the highest of the managers, right, the CPO levels, right, they even though they don't do the individual contribution in terms of the day-to-day execution, but what they do is they always, keep a check on the data points and also the users as well. So I, always give example of someone like Dipinder from Zomato, right, who still goes out and do the deliveries and interact with the end users. So they become the leaders, but they actually take care of the aspect at the ground level too.
Thank you so much, for answering that. And I think why it was also important because, now we can like safely say that a product manager is more of a techno-functional plus a strategical role, right? And especially when you move up in the hierarchy, and you need to know about different aspects of an organization. As you said that, one has to be good with the data, with the operational part, with strategizing, and, this is, how, and end to end, how a product manager really drives a product, right, through multiple strategies. Right. Thank you so much for answering that, Abhinav.
So, and just to add on to it, right? When it comes to product manager, right? This particular profession has evolved in last 10 to 12 years quite a lot, right? If you see, there were only product companies which had product managers, but now you see most of the companies have a product function and dedicated product managers as well. But in simple terms, right? If you ask me in layman language, then product managers are nothing but problem solvers. So be it an offline world or an online world, right? You are trying to just solve a problem. What starts with the first principle approach, right? You are trying to identify a need, that if there's a need or not, right? If there's a need, then what is the most important need, right? So you end up prioritizing what is the most important need. Then you look at how that need can be addressed, right? You come up with a different set of solutions that could be used to address that need. Now, what would be the best possible solution to address that need? Once you identify the best possible solution, then you look at it from a perspective of, prioritizing it, right, in the shorter period of time, and from the strategic perspective from a longer period of time, right? Then you look at what are the trade-offs, if we go ahead with this approach or that approach. And then you look at how do I identify if this product is working or not, if the solution that I've created is really working or not. So that's where you come up with the idea of the key metrics and evaluating it. And then when you are not sure if the metrics are giving you the right idea, right, you do experiments. You play around with things that what could work if I change that, if this will work or not. So that's how an overall product design happens at any organization. And this is agnostic to B2C, B2B, SaaS, or any kind of company. The product design process remains the same, and it's a very, very ground level process. You add on different frameworks to come up with a different sets of ideas or prioritizations or identification or product discovery, right? But the core or the crux, in most of the cases remains the same, where you actually end up designing the product in this way.
Okay. So thank you for this information. And, since you talked about multiple industries here, B2B, B2C, SaaS based, another question that I had in my mind, I mean, since we are discussing about product managers, right, specifically product managers, there is one ambiguity that, most of, people and, my learners also would have in their mind, that is the requirement of product managers only there in the product-based companies only? Let's say somebody graduates from a program like ours, right? Does he has any opportunities available in the, service-based companies as well? Because that certainly has, a big number of companies come in that sector as well. And if yes, then what kind of opportunities? Like, can they go and work as product managers there? And what would be their roles and responsibilities, and how different it would be, if at all it is?
Sure. So I think it's a very valid question, and a lot of people, think about it, that after graduating, would there be enough, job opportunities for me? So I have worked in both sectors. I have worked in product companies, I have worked in service companies. So how traditional, what exactly this role of product management used to be in service companies was through a business analyst side. There is a different notion. So you look at the companies like Fidelity Investments, or a company like Infosys. So Fidelity Investment was a product company. They were creating product for themselves, right? While Infosys was a services company. So they were creating product for their external clients. So when these services companies are there, they call themselves as a BAs. They have a lead BA, they have senior BAs, so which do also the same kind of stuff which we have, as a product manager in product companies. So the kind of a jargon could be different in terms of naming conventions. But service companies also have similar kind of roles. Most of the fintech companies now, have a specific division for product managers. A lot of service companies in, consumer side, in enterprise side, they all have their product divisions now. And people are realizing the importance of product-based approach. Reasoning being, uh, most of these business analyst roles were earlier focused on the execution side. They were given a requirement and they were asked to execute it. For example, client comes back with requirement. Now, when the product person comes in, the product person becomes the sole driver of, upholding the interest of the end user. So they need to interact with the users, understand the need. At times the need is not being understood by the end consumer. So you need to make sure that you understand that this might be useful for the consumer, which they are not able to comprehend. But I, as a product person, has a know-how. I can visualize that if something like this comes up, it might be really, really useful for the end consumer, and we can really create something on top of it. So opportunities are there, but one thing I can really suggest people who are transitioning from an engineering background to a product management background, or a non-engineering background to a product management background, is do a lot of case studies. Everyone wants someone to have some kind of experience. It need not be an experience working full time with an organization. If you have worked, as an intern, or if you have worked with a startup, as a role of an advisor, or as a non-paid intern too, that really counts. If you are working, the end of the day is it's all about your thought process. If you are able to convince me that you have an approach towards identification of user needs, or coming up with an ideal solution for the end user, there are opportunities. I have hired multiple of non product background engineers and graduates as product managers in my team, and trust me, they have performed really, really well, because they come with a different mindset. They have to come. Product managers are problem solvers, like I said, so they need not be an engineer, or they need not be a certain set of a graduate to really do product management, or even an MBA, right? There are a lot of product managers who are not even MBAs, and they're phenomenal. You look at people like Anuj Rathi, or there are very, very good product managers in India, like Rahul Ganju. So they've done so well, with a very, very diverse background. So you cannot generalize it, I would say.
Right. I mean, thank you so much for beautifully explaining this to us. And I know, this is a question on question, but this certainly brings me to another question that, another ambiguity that, learners have in their mind is, if I'm coming from a business background, or from, let's say, sales background, or operations background, or finance background, what I understand about product management is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a product manager is somewhere in between the business, the UI, UX, and the technology part.
Sure.
Right. So if they have any experience, in the other fields as well, right, that is certainly counted as their functional experience that
Absolutely.
moves with them, in the new role. I mean, it is a upskilling process that they are doing. So how can, learners coming from different backgrounds, get clarity on, if they have a career into product management, and how?
Sure, sure, sure. I think that's a very valid point. And just to answer it first, I think let me give you a context on how the things are perceived, right? So, for example, there's a company which is like, let's say, I'm not sure if you've heard, Browser Stack is a company. It's a very technical company. Or let's say Atlassian, who has a tool like Jira and Confluence. A lot of product folks would know. So what they do is, they build core technical products, where they do need some people who have understanding of business, but they are making the products which are really, really technical, right? So what they need is, these products would not have like a wow consumer experience in terms of UI UX, right? They would not have so many flashy things in it, but they will have a lot of logic, a lot of algorithms in place. The platform is very big, so they look for people who have experience in platforms, who have experience, building scalable enterprise, tech products. So their need would be to have someone who comes with a technical engineering background, so that they understand the nuances. So they are not wrong in that, right?
Which maybe 5% of the hiring of the industry.
No, yeah. So I'm coming to that. So there's a scope for everyone, right?
Right.
When it comes to a company like a banking company, right? So banking company would want someone who might be really good in technical, but they want someone who's a subject matter expert. They want someone to have a clear understanding of the banking sector. So if you are designing experience for a bank, you need to know about the regulations, you need to know about, how the finance work, how the transactions work, right? So they might have a different. So if someone who has a great subject matter expertise in banking, but no experience in product management would still be a good fit to create a product for the banking sector, right? Now coming back to the end consumer, right? The consumer sector. There are a lot of opportunities in consumer sector too, like your Amazons of the world, or Flipkart is there, or urban companies. There are n number of consumer startups these days. So there, it's all about the mindset that comes in, right? So someone who has done a sales mindset, for example, you have done a lot of sales when it comes to defining a construction material, or let's say in terms of uh, let's say consumer good, right? So someone who has really good consumer good experience, let's say someone who has been selling electronic good, would be an ideal fit for a company like Flipkart or Amazon, who are selling the consumer products, right? So that person might not have a technical experience, but a very good subject matter expertise. They can learn the nuances of how to interact with the engineers, but they need not have a technical knowledge, right? It's not needed as part of their job. What's needed is to an experience in how consumer would require a technical product to be like. What would be the perception? For example, lens cart, right? Someone who has come from an industry of spectacles, right? Or someone who was a doctor might be a great product fit for company like Lenskart, right? So they need to know that what are the challenges a user would have, for example, a trial, trial and buying a product feature, right? How you can make it online. So what are the key things? So you need that kind of a product expert to be there. So I hope that answers your question, because it's very, very generic. But every industry has a specific requirement.
100%.
There's a scope for everyone. I strongly believe there's a scope for everyone. One of the best product managers who have worked with me came from a BA background, from LSR, and now she's a principal product manager at Microsoft. So you can think of someone who has come from an arts background and becoming a principal level product managers at Microsoft must be very youngest of the principal product managers at Microsoft. So like I said, don't restrict yourself thinking that even if I don't have a technical experience, I might not be the right fit for product.
I mean, I think that's an amazing answer to the question. And I really think that it will answer a lot of the doubts in the mind of our learners, because, these are some frequently asked questions that we have from our learners at the platform, right? And, listening from you, is certainly, which gives them assurance that how the industry is functioning at the moment. Thank you. Thank you so much for your patience, Abhinav.
Thanks a lot, Abhinav, for the insightful session. It was an honor to have you on board for this webinar. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. And, I think you have already shared my LinkedIn ID. But if anyone wants to connect offline, I would be happy to answer any of their queries. And yeah, all the best to you. I hope you got some benefit from this. I didn't waste your time. But in case you have any more queries, or would like to learn from my experience, I would be happy to answer that as well offline. Yeah, thank you.
Totally,
Thank you.
Abhinav. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.